did that. I recall one hardline Hells Angels biker who, well, he had an amazing scar across his abdomen. And I remember asking him, how did you get that scar? Because it was really neat. And he said that was an encounter in a laneway with someone with an X-Acto knife. So he had a kind of, a transparency and an openness about the records of his life. But when he needed something for pain, his request would be 2 perks and a beer. 2 perks standing for Percocet. And knowing that the staff would always be there for him, for his needs, and for his individuality, and deep respect for that. There's a huge stigma associated with being addicted. And Parham House and other settings that welcome, palliative people across the spectrum really develop a kind of sensitivity and a recognition of the individuality. And a heart for the fact that this person has deeply suffered before they ever got to us in this dying state. Harm reduction. Perhaps you've heard some of harm reduction, and it's an attitude that says, I welcome you who you are. I welcome you. When persons come on methadone to Parham House, often we complement their dosage of methadone, which they're receiving for their addiction, with increasing that dose for management of pain. And so it's the wonder of the addict kind of saying, oh, now I'm methadone for this and I'm on methadone for that. But it's truly a very fine drug for pain control, particularly if there's nerve involvement with the pain. And each day, the same team recognizes the individuality of the person, and the person begins to trust the team. Compassion is at the center of every intervention. And sometimes our interventions are so exquisite and magnificent that we love the person into wellness, that the person comes in a huge readiness to die, but because he or she is fed, housed, loved, there is a gift of an extended period of time. And so sometimes we have to facilitate a discharge and then a welcome back when the need arises. I remember at St. Michael's at the palliative care unit years ago, we admitted a person from forensic psychiatry, and he was deemed a murderer and came, accompanied with, proper people, And so, we tucked him into bed, managed his pain, loved his uniqueness. He was a very fine artist, respected his integrity, and I recall him saying, I think I've already died because this is heaven. And his description of heaven, when we expanded on it, was the deep acceptance of who that person was as a person. At Parham House is a deck, and the life on the deck, lots of smoking, right? Coffee, cigarettes in the morning. And so there's often an assembly of men and women around the umbrella, in the wind, in the cold. I've learned to bring a big sweater to work because you're often out there. And there was a new resident who was kind of his first morning joining the smoking room. And he sat in his wheelchair and looked round at the men and women who were gathered there. And it was as if it just kind of clued in that he was at a hospice and what that meant. And he sat in his chair and said softly, I'm here to die. And there was a respectful silence. And then one lady said in a gravelly welcome, well, you're in the right place. So the Parham House also has a kitchen. And we have these amazing volunteer cooks who will prepare meals if the person is healthy enough and feeling well enough to come down. But sometimes the person will just join the life in the kitchen because it's ordinary life, even if the person can't eat. I remember one resident saying as he sat at the kitchen table, this is the first time since childhood that I've sat with people at a kitchen table. The hard life of those who are marginalized / homeless. One day we had a donation of moose stew, and our volunteer chef was having it in a crock pot, and the smell was permeating the downstairs area. And one of the residents was a Newfoundlander, and he looked at me and he said, moose stew, my pain pills meals, a couple of beer, what could a newfie want? So I say these stories because although we are in a dying place, it really is an attitude of the richness of living. The reconciliation. A lot of people haven't been in touch with their families because of their lifestyle, and sometimes with their permission there is an attempt to reconnect. Some family members say, forget it, he was so abusive, we want nothing to do with him. And that's how we have to go about it. But sometimes there are these amazing connections. And I remember one man who was reconnected with his 2 adult sons. And he said to them, I'm your father, I was a drunk, I was never there, and I'm sorry. And so in the last days, there was like a recognition of family. Well, death is the trajectory that we're all on. And I guess serving these people, the privilege of serving these people, has taught each of us to live well, whatever that might mean. To live in the moment. To live well so we can die well and die faithfully. I would like to now tell you some hope-filled initiatives. Each of you has come with a curiosity of palliative care or whatever, and so there are opportunities to follow up this interest. You can add phoning and saying hello, developing an ease with kind of looking at what the future might be for this individual. Deb Matthews is our new Ministry of Health person. Right, Deb? Now, dear Deb, hospices are great, but we are terribly underfunded. There's a 10-bed hospice in Barrie that's waiting to open and can't because there's no secure funding. The Dorothy Day Hospice opened within a year in Etobicoke, and already they've had to cut beds and cut staff. No secure funding. Perham House, no secure funding. We run at a deficit. We've cut the number of beds available and the number of staff we have. So I do invite you to articulate your desire to have better funding for this end of life. Another possibility for involvement as a hope-filled initiative is to consider volunteer training. Each of the places that serve people in palliative care have a very fine volunteer training, and it gives you an opportunity to just get closer to this population. Well, in inviting you to participate, each of us recognizes what a gift it is to serve this population. And I would just like to close with a sense of gratitude for all the people that we have served and continue to serve. And just say thank you to each of those men and women who has taught each of us so much. Thank you.